to terminate effective immediately. Kamal Woods. Trustee Needham? Yes. Trustee Harlow? Yes.
In a stunning and sudden move that has left the town of Dalton buzzing with speculation, Tiffany Henyard's lover was abruptly fired with little discussion and just 3 votes in favor, signaling an unexpected shift in the power dynamics within her administration. This dramatic decision has immediately raised questions. What prompted this abrupt action, and what does it mean for the larger power struggles happening behind closed doors? Was this a case of justice, or was there a deeper, more complex issue at play? Henyard's world, already shaken by ongoing controversies surrounding her leadership, has suffered yet another blow. The firing of her lover seems to further unravel the delicate web of political maneuvering that had been tightly woven around her. While this may seem like just another personnel change, it feels like a pivotal moment of something larger unfolding. The timing and circumstances surrounding this dismissal have created a tense atmosphere, with many wondering whether it represents a political move to protect Henyard's standing or a sign that cracks within her administration are widening. Could this shakeup expose further flaws in her leadership, or is it a betrayal from within her own camp, an attempt to cover up deeper issues that have plagued Dalton under her watch? The suddenness of the decision, coupled with a lack of prior discussion, has sparked a range of theories among residents. Many see it as either an act of desperation or a tactical move to clear the air amidst the growing turmoil surrounding Henyard's tenure. Whatever the true motivations behind it, this latest development raises even more questions about the stability of Henyard's political future. Has she lost control of the administration, or is this a calculated move to shift the narrative? The sense of chaos surrounding her leadership is palpable, as Dalton, once hopeful for revitalization under her administration, now grapples with the fallout from a series of questionable decisions and scandals that have eroded public trust. The firing of Henyard's lover has only intensified this feeling of disarray, leaving residents to wonder whether there is more to the story than meets the eye. Was this an effort to avoid the growing controversy, or was it a sign that the cracks in the Henyard administration are finally widening into a full-blown collapse? As more details emerge, it becomes apparent that the decision is not just about one person being dismissed. It speaks to much larger issues of leadership, loyalty, and power struggles that have been brewing for months. Henyard, who had once prided herself on controlling the narrative and making strategic appointments, now faces the consequences of her actions. Many see her latest move as a desperate attempt to maintain some semblance of authority over a spiraling situation. Accusations have long circulated that Henyard used her position to place supporters in key roles, consolidating power and ensuring loyalty from those around her. However, as the political landscape shifts and her influence begins to slip, it seems that even those closest to her are turning away, perhaps in search of self-preservation in the face of mounting public scrutiny. The sudden firing of her lover could be an indication that the pressure is becoming too great for Henyard to manage. She may now be willing to make sacrifices to stave off further damage to her reputation. But what does this mean for Dalton's future? Is this a final attempt to clean up the mess left in her wake, or is it simply a sign of leadership crumbling under the weight of its own excesses? The situation is far from clear, and the town's residents are left wondering how much longer they will be subjected to the turmoil the Henyard administration has unleashed. As her once tight grip on the town loosens, it is becoming increasingly evident that the community is growing restless and demanding accountability. The firing of her lover may have been a necessary step for Henyard to distance herself from her controversial inner circle, but it is unlikely to calm the growing unrest. If anything, it seems to highlight the deepening rift between Henyard and the very people she was elected to serve. The question now is whether Henyard can regain control of the narrative and restore some semblance of order in Dalton, or if the fallout from her actions will ultimately lead to her undoing. As the investigation into her financial dealings continues and public pressure mounts, it remains unclear whether this latest move will be enough to salvage her political future, or if it will be remembered as the final nail in the coffin of her leadership. The residents of Dalton, once hopeful for change and revitalization, now find themselves questioning whether their town will ever recover from the damage done under Henyard's rule. Tiffany Henyard's sudden firing of her boyfriend has raised more questions than answers, casting a long shadow over an already controversial administration. While many initially saw his position within Dalton's government as just another instance of political favoritism, the timing of his dismissal now suggests that something much more significant has occurred behind the scenes. The abrupt decision to sever ties with someone so close to her, someone who had been deeply embedded in her political circle for months, raises suspicions about internal fallout or mounting political pressure. Why, after months of scrutiny, has Henyard decided to make this move now, especially when Dalton's government officials are staying silent on the matter? The lack of communication only fuels speculation, and residents are growing increasingly curious about the true reasons behind the firing. Was this an attempt to cut off a source of public outrage and litigation stemming from her administration's financial mismanagement? Or is it a desperate move to deflect blame and mitigate the damage to her already crumbling political career? Some are questioning whether this move is a calculated tactic to distance herself from scandal, but the decision may be far from that. The situation is more complex than it appears. In fact, by firing someone so closely linked to her leadership, Tiffany Henyard risks revealing even deeper flaws within her management of Dalton, flaws that could prove impossible to ignore for the residents of Dalton. The timing of the firing is especially puzzling, and many are paying close attention to see if Henyard can provide a satisfactory explanation. The dismissal has become a lightning rod for speculation, with some arguing that it is yet another attempt by Henyard to cover her tracks, while others suggest it may be a sincere decision in response to the growing disarray surrounding her leadership. Either way, the fallout from this move is bound to intensify, adding more chaos to an already volatile political landscape for Henyard's administration. For Henyard's boyfriend, losing his job is not just about the paycheck. It is also about what the position represented within Dalton's administration. His close relationship with Henyard granted him significant clout, and that has now become a point of intense public interest. For months, Dalton residents have speculated about the role he played in Henyard's decision-making processes, and, with his dismissal, questions about his involvement in financial transactions, political dealings, and questionable employment practices are bound to escalate. Was he privy to sensitive information that could expose further wrongdoing within the IE administration? Did he play a role in the financial mismanagement or dubious employment practices that have brought Henyard under fire? The decision to terminate him raises even more questions, and many see it as a way for Henyard to cut ties with a source of controversy. However, this could also backfire, intensifying scrutiny and leaving Dalton's residents more determined than ever to uncover the truth behind her administration's failings. The sudden firing of Tiffany Henyard's lover has sparked intense speculation and raised more questions than answers about the internal dynamics of her administration. While Henyard has been battling criticism for months, this decision, which many view as an attempt to relieve political pressure, may have deeper implications than initially apparent. This was not just a routine personnel change, it marked a significant shift in the balance of power within Henyard's inner circle, signaling potential turmoil at the core of her leadership. Connections within local politics, Henyard's administration, and even among Dalton citizens do not disappear overnight. And the timing of this decision, coming after a prolonged period of scrutiny, only heightens suspicions about what is really happening behind closed doors. Some speculate that this move is part of a larger damage control strategy, while others believe Henyard severed ties with a close ally to protect herself. The firing has fueled talk of internal betrayal and raises the question of whether someone within her administration finally pushed for this action, signaling that the pressure for accountability has become too much to ignore. The ongoing financial mismanagement, legal challenges, and rapidly eroding public trust make Henyard's political future seem increasingly uncertain. While the dismissal could be viewed as a desperate attempt to distance herself from mounting scandals, it also suggests that the cracks in her administration are much deeper than anyone realized. When allies begin turning into critics, it is a sign that things are unraveling. If her decision was forced by growing demands for accountability, it could indicate that her grip on power is slipping. What makes the situation even more suspicious is that this move comes at a time when her administration is already under intense scrutiny for financial misconduct, poor governance, and a lack of transparency. The timing of the firing suggests Henyard may be trying to stem the tide of criticism, but this action could very well backfire. Residents of Dalton, already weary of her leadership, may see the move as an empty gesture or a sign of weakness. If it was intended to calm the storm, Henyard may have miscalculated, as it could be viewed as a futile attempt to deflect attention from the broader issues plaguing her administration. As the pressure on Henyard to address a growing list of complaints and allegations intensifies, the question on everyone's mind is whether this firing will be seen as a wise political maneuver or the first sign of internal betrayal. The fact that she severed ties with someone so close to her, someone who had wielded considerable influence in Dalton, only adds to the mystery of her motivations. Did Henyard make this decision to protect herself from further fallout, or was she forced into it by others within her circle who have grown disillusioned with her leadership? This is where the real drama lies, as political betrayals rarely happen overnight, and the repercussions of this move could set off a chain of events that may ultimately spell the end of Henyard's hold on power. For now, the people of Dalton are watching closely, and the situation remains in flux, with Henyard's political fate hanging in the balance. Whether this firing will be seen as a strategic move or a sign of her unraveling leadership remains to be seen. However, it has certainly added another layer of complexity to an already volatile political environment. As rumors swirl and public see, trust continues to erode. Henyard's decision to fire her boyfriend may only be the beginning of a much larger crisis. With the town already struggling under the weight of financial turmoil, legal issues, and mounting public dissatisfaction, Henyard may have just made a move that will further alienate her from the very people she was elected to serve. Dalton's future now seems more uncertain than ever. The question now is whether this action will lead to meaningful change or simply add to a long list of missteps that come to define Henyard's troubled tenure. The myriad controversies surrounding her administration, paired with the abrupt dismissal of her boyfriend, have only intensified the growing unrest in Dalton, further stoking the flames of political discontent.